Oh, can you hear me now? No. Yes? It is working, just no one can hear me. Hello? Oh, the microphone's working. Hello? There we go. It's only 11 minutes late. That's good. Pretty good going for us. This is really annoying me, actually. Oh, well. Thank you all for coming. This is Epiphany I. If you haven't been to an SJCR meeting before, welcome. If you've been to lots before, welcome. Yeah, this is Epiphany I. Later we will have the presidential husts, but first we've got an SJCR meeting to do. So, yeah, if you haven't been before, you're in for a treat. But, yeah. So, here's the agenda. Pretty standard. We'll get to everything. Starting off, apologies for absence. It says there's no one absent. That's not true. Talitha can't be here. That's the welfare officer for those who don't know. Minutes and matters arising. We need to ratify the minutes from Michaelmas 3, which is the last meeting, which I wasn't at. I don't know if anyone else was there. But I assume you've already read the minutes, of course. So we'll do that on a general I. So are there any objections to the minutes from Michaelmas 3? No? Okay. Now, on 3, we will say I. 1, 2, 3, I. Good. Anyone? No one's against, that's fine. Yes. Exec trustee reports. I have a report. Next meeting, which is Epiphany II, on the 8th of February, which is a Thursday, will be the exec husts, which is the same as this, but there'll be exec positions. So if you'd like to run for an exec position, think about it now, because the election notice will go out next week at some point. You'll then have a week to submit manifestos, and then there'll be like a week where those manifestos are up, and then we'll do the husts, and you'll all vote, like this, basically. So yes, if you'd like to run for an exec position, which I would strongly encourage you to do, because it's great fun, we'll be doing in the next few days, weeks, some sort of drop-ins, so you can come and speak to exec members. If you want to just like ask them a question, just send them a message on Facebook or send them an email. In fact, if we have the next slide, you can see all those emails. And yeah, I'd encourage you to run for an exec position even if you haven't been much involved in the SJCR before, or at all involved in the SJCR before, because you're all members, you can all be part of it. So the more people run, the more democratic it is, which is good. So please run for exec. That's all from me. Yeah, that's everyone's emails. Does anyone have any questions for any exec members? This is a good way to hold your SJCR exec to account. So if anyone has any questions, please ask them now. Any question at all? No. Okay, that's fine. Fair enough. In future, if you have any questions, come here, because this is a really good place to ask them. You might stimulate other people's questions, so that's good. Non-exec reports. Any non-exec here who have a report / question for a non-exec member? Nope. Okay. Motions. Exciting. So we have actually 4 motions today. There'll be one at the end, which I forgot to put on the slides in the agenda, but we'll get to that. So we'll start off with motion to change financial well-being representative to social mobility representative. So Tom, do you want to come and... Yeah, it'll be good. Just to explain what this is all about. Wherever you like, yeah, that'll be good. There's a microphone there, so I assume that'll work.
Financial well-being rep is quite limited. I don't think it's the most clearly defined, and I think it leaves out a whole lot of areas where a role like social mobility rep could be more useful. A lot of other colleges have a working class representative, or like Chad's has a social mobility representative. I think it just makes the role a lot more holistic. It gives it a lot more options for the person in that role, in what they can do, in what they want to do. Yeah, I just think financial well-being representative is quite limiting at the moment, and I think social mobility rep could broaden out the possibilities with what you can do, could engage better with a lot of the other colleges. Yeah.
Cool. Does anyone have any questions about that motion? No. Oh, yes.
I have a question about the naming of this. Because financial well-being, I think, is somewhat different to social mobility.
Yes.
And I'd like to kind of know more why that name has been chosen.
I think it was sort of, I thought about this quite a bit, kind of a compromise, because I think you can incorporate financial well-being into social mobility. I think it's a big part of it. I think it acknowledges a kind of class aspect of finances. But, I mean, the other thing I was thinking of was something like working class representative. But I know in my experiences being financial well-being representative, there's a lot of students who don't identify as working class, who don't come from working class backgrounds like I do, who struggle with finances. and who struggle with kind of social mobility issues in the same way. I feel like this is a kind of good way of not excluding anyone while still trying to have quite a broadly defined role that can help as many people as possible. Yeah, I don't know how this works.
Yeah, Jonathan?
Building on what you said, that the middle class needs as well as perhaps the worst off in society will be in need of this role. Do you think that maybe the middle class will be discouraged from going to you for help if it was towards social mobility, which might represent the working class more, and they would identify with a need for social mobility? Do you think that would stop them from coming to you for help?
No, because I think you can still communicate well within the role in a way where the title kind of doesn't matter so much. I think if you're communicating and being like, hey, here's some information which is relevant to a bunch of you, like, I think if you're targeting information is what I'm trying to say, and making sure you're trying to communicate directly to those groups, you're going to avoid excluding them. But yeah, I don't know.
Louise?
Does anything about your role actually change, or is it kind of like you're doing the same thing? Currently you're kind of mobilising socially, and like you're kind of just renaming it, or are you actually like planning on doing things differently, and that's like hence the rename, or kind of like, yeah?
I think this gives more scope for doing things differently. So I think a big reason I wanted to change this is I talk a lot to the Chad social mobility representative. I think because it's a social mobility representative there, they have a lot more of a remit when it comes to campaigning about things and putting information about things. I think financial well-being is very limited to financial information about like bursaries and grants, which a lot of the time is not that relevant to wider social issues involving things like class, which are going on at the university. I think social mobility does better incorporate that. I think it gives you more room to campaign on these things in a way where it's not really in the remit of financial well-being rep, if that makes sense.
Does anyone else have any more questions? No? Okay, is there anyone who... Oh, yes, go on then.
Are you proposing a change to the role description as well as the name? You don't need to have one ready now.
I don't have one ready, but yes. Yeah.
Okay, does anyone have any further questions on that? No? Okay, is anyone who'd like to oppose the motion? No? Okay, in that case we can run that on a general aye. So all those in favour please say aye. Aye. All those against please say no. Great, that's now passed. Thank you. Well done. There you go. For those who haven't been before, that's how motions work. We sort of debate them and then, as you can see, I'll now change that in the Constitution, and now we've changed the position. Right, next motion is the motion to establish a St John's College Gardening Society. So, Connor, are you here? Yes, you are here. I thought I'd seen you. Yeah.
Hello. The motion is kind of straightforward. I want to establish a gardening society. Currently, our gardener, Harry, has been away. He has cancer, and he's been gone since like August. And so the gardens are kind of, they've been chilling, untended, unkempt. And I think it would be nice to do something with that. So, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hands. Go for it, Amy.
Is there any particular projects that you have in mind?
Yeah, so like the garden in number 10, or behind number 10, is particularly in disarrears. That was like probably the first thing I noticed when I got here in early September. I walked out into our backyard and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I don't have the tool. There's no tools to like do anything about that. I've spoken with like Cots, and they have a gardening club. I don't know if there's like a garden like up in the wall, but they would only be willing to like share their tools if there was like a formal gardening society here in our college. So there's that. And I mean, I don't think there's like, I feel like the rest of the college is, the plants seem to be doing all right without like a lot of maintenance right now, but perhaps we could help Harry in the future when he returns. So, yeah.
Yes, I know.
Would
Absolutely, it's a college society. I don't know if other societies are like exclusionary, but I guess anyone in John's could join. Maybe not in the other colleges.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
No, go on, Andrew.
you proposed the society as a kind of, I guess, way to fulfill a college role that's currently not being held in college. If, say, college were to get in a new gardener at some point, or the gardener to return to work, would you plan to keep the gardening society as a leisure activity as well that people could do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be lit. Sorry, that's an Americanism. I don't know if that's a term you guys use. Any other questions? Go for it.
Jonathan, yep.
As you say, you've discussed sharing tools with cuts. So have any conversations about money taking place in that trade?
Money is interesting. I've not asked about them financing anything. I've just asked about, they've got like rakes. We don't have any rakes. They've also got those like, I don't know the term for them, but like they're green bags for like leaves and twigs and things like that. As far as I know, we don't have anything here for that, unless Harry has something like stowed away. I've talked to like the maintenance people, but they don't know anything. Like, like they have no knowledge about the gardening tools or where those are kept. And so yeah, I think money probably not a thing that would be exchanged, but certainly like tools and maybe expertise. So I'm sure they have a lot of knowledge. Yeah, exactly. Like a fair trade thing, maybe even.
Anna, did you have a...
No, it's not a question on that. Do you think in the future that you'll want to buy tools for yourself?
Yeah, we could do that. I mean, I don't know how to do that because I'm not used to like, this is a different university system, so, but I'm sure we could talk, yeah.
Nice. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Okay, does anyone want to pose this motion? No? Okay. Sorry, Anna, did you have another question?
In terms of health and safety and that kind of thing, is that being thought about just about having people with breaks? Will you be able to provide a risk assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. We could do like a rake and safety class. Or gardening tools 101, you know. I think that, yeah, and risk assessments, I'm not sure how to do those in an English setting, but I was a part of like the university organization at my university that basically drafted bylaws for student orgs and went over like transition systems and also all number of things for student orgs. So I would just need to figure out how to do the risk assessment, and I'm sure I could talk with you all about that.
Okay. Assuming there are no other questions. Yes, go on.
You said in the resolution that you plan to be ratified yourself with Felipe as co-president. Would you be planning, if the motion were to be passed, to run sort of an election for the rest of the committee for the society?
I mean, I presume.
Are there any other roles?
I can't think of roles off the top of my head, but I think once the society is formed, like ad hoc roles could become formal roles as well. And I think like co-president might be a misnomer because I don't think of a gardening organization as necessarily like hierarchical, you know. I think of it more as like a flat organization. Maybe gardeners in charge would be the formal title. Yeah.
Do anyone have any more questions? No? Okay. Is there any opposition to this motion? No, excellent. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. Perfect. Congratulations. We now have a St John's College Gardening Society. As ever, if you would like to form your own society, that is how you do it. So please get in touch. Right, next motion. This is a fun one. The motion to disband Constitutional Reform Committee. As I'm sure most of you know, those of you who don't know, last year we created a Constitutional Reform Committee, which, funnily enough, reformed the Constitution. So we wrote a new Constitution. We then had a referendum to approve it. Getting everyone to vote on that was difficult, but we did manage it. we are now effectively transitioned to being, well, there is now a CIO St. John's College, St. John's Common Room, which basically means we're incorporated and there's like rules of trustees and stuff. So talk to Will if you're interested in the CIO. But yes, now we have a CIO that we are transitioning to. We don't need a CRC anymore. So I'm not sure why I've just explained that because it's Ben's motion. Ben, do you have anything else to say?
So just thank you to everyone who's on CRC. We spent many hours in meetings. Thomas was a 5 or 6 hour meeting. So yeah, thank you to anyone that's involved and read the Constitution, helped edit the Constitution, just sat through the meetings, whatever. Yeah, we now don't need CRC. We should probably expand it before we have to elect a new committee.
Does anyone have any questions on the motion? No? Okay. Does anyone oppose the motion? No? Okay, cool. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. Good. So we no longer have a CRC. I don't know if that's a congratulations or a well done or what, but there we go. Now, finally, we have our last motion, which I wasn't on the agenda. I apologise. I forgot about this one. Izzy, I don't think, is here. No. So, Ben, do you want to explain this motion?
I wasn't planning to speak on this motion, but we will go for it anyway. So, the Environment Committee was created about a year ago to look after kind of environmental stuff within the Common Room and the college. The MCR and CCR haven't got any representation on this committee. It is an open committee, so anyone can sit on it, but there's no representation for them to vote. The MCR wanted some representation on the committee. I believe we discussed it with Cranmer. No. I thought as he had discussed it with Cranmer. No. Would you like some representation on the Environment Committee?
No.
Wonderful. Okay. May I propose a single motion, this motion will not be put and instead be considered next time?
Okay. Just for those who don't know, that means we kind of changed the motion a bit. It's been seconded. So all those who would be in favour of not putting this motion now and reconsidering it next meeting, we've discussed it more. Please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. Good. Okay. Well, if you want to come to Epiphany 2, we can talk about this again when more discussions have been had. Thank you, Ben. That's it for motions. Great fun, I know. And I realised halfway through that I didn't have my gavel because I left my gavel in the exec office. So for all you gavel fans out there, I apologise. I'll grab it off the break. We're now on non-manifesto elections, so this is your chance to get involved with the SJCR if you're not already, or if you are, to change roles or get a new role, whatever you fancy. So here are the roles. Some good roles in here. We will start with Live Without Representative because for some reason I didn't put them in order. Basically, this is part of the campaigns team, so if you are going to live out at some point in your degree, or have lived out, then you can represent all those who do live out. For example, I live out. I can't hold this role because I already hold this role, but one of you might not hold this role. So maybe you want to. I don't think it's too much. Kate, I don't know if you have anything to say. Yeah, that's a good idea. Kate can definitely explain it better than I can.
So yeah, hi everyone. Live as Out representative. Basically, your big thing is the housing crisis. Housing is expensive, and it's very stressful for freshers, so that's your main role. Other than that, it's just about getting livers out involved in college, because quite a lot of the time when they leave college, they don't really come back. So yeah, if you want to, it can be simple things. You can run events, you can run a campaign, you can have coffee with people, just do anything to get people involved. Yeah, fun role.
Thank you. That's much better than I managed to explain it. So if you'd like to run for this role, well, is there anyone here who would like to run for the role? You don't have to do anything now. You just have to say you want to run. Did I hear a yes? No. Okay. That's fine. if you want to run again, we'll do the same election at Epiphany 2. I think we've also done it at Michaelmas 3 and Michaelmas 2 and Michaelmas 1, so it's usually going. But it would be really good if someone did it, because as you all know, the housing crisis is quite a big problem in Durham, so it'd be good to have someone representing those people in the SJCR and sort of help people out. So yeah, if you do have any interest, go and speak to Kate, and we can get something sorted. Next position is Assistant Societies Officer. This is a new role. Ooh. This was created last meeting because it was decided that the role of Assistant Sports and Societies Officer is too limiting and doesn't necessarily represent societies well enough, so now it's Assistant Sports Officer and Assistant Societies Officer. So if you would like to be Assistant Societies Officer, so support Jonathan in making sure societies run, as you can see there's a job description, you'll help out with the Team John's social media account, do other sort of things to support Jonathan. I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, Jonathan?
Well, much other than that, except this is quite an important position. Our transfer objective is so that we will provide sport and recreation for our members. And I think society is the weak point in that at the moment. We don't have too many of them, and the ones we have, I think we could really improve. So maybe we'd run for this in a week or so. We'd sit down with you and our society leaders and start talking about how we can improve that. And we'll be looking for you to lead on that as I get a place in the 2 weeks' time.
Would anyone like to run? Oh, yes, Miles. Dramatic pan. Is there a call to Hust?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Miles, would you like to come and Hust? This is your sneak preview of what the presidential Hust will be like. Yes, please come to the front. So, for those who don't know, with a non-manifesto role, you don't have to Hust, but if you're asked to Hust, you do. Although the other thing is anyone else who'd like to run? No. Okay, that's fine. Miles, go ahead.
So I am currently on the exec of three of the societies in John's. So I am co-president of the F1 SOC, but less said about that the better, given how much we've done this year. But I'm also on the execs of the JMS and the BTC, which are the 2 biggest, I believe, execs in college. I'm the technician equivalent for both, and I would like to do this because I know a lot about the societies and get some promo out there just before our musical. Come to the musical.
Does anyone have any questions for Miles? No? Okay, does anyone oppose Miles being elected? No. All those in favour of electing Miles, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. Congratulations, Miles, you are now the Assistant Societies Officer. Okay, now we get to year out representative. Kate, I don't know if you have anything you want to say about this. What I can say is, again, a bit like Livers Out representative, you represent those who do a year out on their degree. Yeah, again, the job description's there. Would anyone like to run for the role? No? Okay. Again, if you'd like to run next meeting, you can. Just speak to either me or Kate. SU committee. Oliver, would you like to speak about this? Given this is your thing. Yeah, I do. That'd be good.
So this is a very chilled out committee. We only meet usually once a term because there's only one SU assembly per term. So it's a very relaxed role. You get to know a bit more about how the SU works, which I would really say is something nice, because the SU is quite a big beast in university and quite, on face value, quite difficult to understand. So please join my committee. You get to learn more about the SU, how it runs, the politics of the SU. We've had some really interesting debates already this term. In recent minds, we had debates about foreign politics, the Durham Union. That was an interesting one. So yeah, it's multifaceted, you learn a lot, and it's actually quite good fun as well. And I often have snacks, so please come for snacks. So yeah, please run. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone like to run for the role? Yes. Hello. Hi. Yep. I always get to say this. If you do get elected to a role, please come and see us at the end so we can write your name down. Yes, that's one person. Anyone else like to run for a role? Yes. Hello. Anyone else? That's 2. 3. Yes. Can I get a fourth? Yeah, we can have more than 4 people running. That is, okay, are you sure? Okay. You can run joint candidature as well, I think. It may not work for this committee, actually. No. No, okay, we can't do that. If there's more than 4 people who would like to run, that is doable. So yeah, just if you would like to run. But if you'd like to run, come and stand at the front because there's now enough people. So just so I know how many we've got, if that's all right. Or stand up would be the best way of doing it, I think. Sorry. Great, okay, thank you. Is there anyone who would like to oppose electing these 4 fine candidates? No? Okay. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say no. Great, we now have an SU committee. Please come and see me at the end and I'll get your name down. That was a success. Now, we have 3 sustainability campaigners. James, do you want to talk about this? Yeah, this is your...
Very exciting role, I'm sure one will be waiting for. It is. No, hello, fellow Johnians. Thank you all for coming along today for massive turnouts. What I argue is the most important election you will see this meeting. Sustainability campaigners. We're looking for 3 of you who are passionate about the environment, about gardening, about the eco, and yeah, we've got an exciting position 3 for you today.
Yeah, you'd be helping us with general sustainability campaigns around college, and we're having a fair trade and sustainability formal next month, so we want to run... We'd like to run some other events that week as well, so it would be helping with that. Lots of fun things to be doing.
Any takers?
Yes.
1,
oh, yes. 2, 3.
Come on, I'm joint candidates
Yes,
in coverage.
3. There we go.
3. Perfect.
If anyone else would like to run, we can have more than 3. Do you want to stand up if you'd like to run? Great. Are there any calls to Huss? No. Okay. All those in favour of electing these 3 candidates, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, please say no. Congratulations. You are now our 3 sustainability campaigners. And our final non-manifesto election of the meeting is our Team John's Awards Committee representatives. Jonathan, I don't know if you have anything to say about this.
I'll stand up this time. Hello. This is a very easy job. It will require about 2 hours of your life once, and that is it. So please do go for it. So what does it do? Basically, at the end of every year, we sit down and we go through a list of all of the finalists and who have taken part in sports and societies, and we award them colours or half colours based on whether they've been nominated for any awards. So we get to sit there and judge them and say if they're good at sports and societies, if they've dedicated enough time to it. So yeah, please do come and sit. You'll be a voting member. Me and my assistants will be there as well. We're not voting members. Yeah, it's a chance to give back to everybody that's given time to sports and societies while they've been at John's. So please do give up 2 hours of your life.
Thank you. Would anyone like to stand for this role? Yes. Please stand up if you would like to stand, so to speak. Yes. Do we have a 4th taker? Yes, we do. Andrew. Is there anyone else who'd like to run? Or is that it? Anywhere. We could, I think. Couldn't we?
I don't think it's a condition of candidature, I think it's a condition on the committee.
Yes, that way, okay, we may not be able to do that then. Sorry. Is there anyone else who'd like to run? No? Okay, that's fine. Are there any calls to Hust? No. Okay. Are either of, well, is anyone here a sports team member or a society member of those of you running? Yes. Excellent, that's fine then. All those in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say no. Perfect. Congratulations. Ben, what is the status of the pizza? Perfect. Yes. Okay, we'll have a break now then. We will reconvene at 5:02. Please have some pizza. If you have any questions, please come and ask me. If you've run for a roll, please come and say hello now. Hello. We're going to make a start. Before we make a start, I'd like to just say I'm keen to improve the format of SJCR meetings because I understand they're a bit boring and complicated. I hope not, but they might be. If you have any feedback, please do let me know. Either email me, send me a message on Facebook, just talk to me, because the better they are, the more fun they are, the more people get involved in SJCR, and that's a good thing. So, if you have any feedback, let me know, please. Thank you. Also, tell your friends if you've enjoyed it, because I'd like more people to come to these, because they're good. That's all from me. It's now Ted's turn, because as senior returning officer for this election, so he's in charge of the election, Ted will do the chairing of the husts. So, it's goodbye from me. Wait, what is it Jeremy Pax was here? It's good. And goodbye from me, goodbye. Sorry.
Hello. Okay. So, right. So, the plan was to just do Ben, Diddy, then me. So we're going to do 3 minutes for proposer speeches, 8 minutes for the candidate's speech, and then after each candidate's speech, we're going to do questions for clarification. So it's basically just where you can ask specific questions to that candidate about specific things they mention in their manifesto or their hust. So like not more, I don't know, policy-related questions, but more you're literally trying to clarify what they've said because you don't understand. Then once we got through all the individual speeches, we're going to have general time for questions. But yeah, I'll go over that again when we get closer to each of those things. But for the candidates and the proposers, I'm going to do, when your time's ended, I'll just do like one bang on the table, and then if you're like carrying on, then I'll just like, until you stop. Oh, yes, please.
Start that.
Okay.
No offense to...
Yeah, sorry.
I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but are we doing, is there going to be a sort of, 30 seconds before time is up, back to the warning?
Oh yeah, we can do that if you like. Yeah, we'll do one thing for 30 seconds before, or no, or like 15, because I feel like is that more useful to wrap up with? Yeah, I'll do one bang for 15 seconds, and then 2 bangs for end of your speech, and then like, stop. All right, so I'm going to invite Ben's proposer up first, Matty. And let me know when you want to start, and I'll start the timer. Okay.
I suppose we have to go without. Oh, hello. I'm just gonna. We've gone mobile. Do I just sort of start? Are you gonna time me? Yeah, let's kick it off. So everyone, I'm Matty, Ben's proposer. Just a little bit about me. I'm a third-year history and politics student at John's, obviously. Currently treasurer for the Bailey Theatre Company. Come and see our musical. And I'm vice president of the History Society. We've got a social coming up on the 25th, if you'd like to come to that. I'm here to tell you why Ben is a great guy. He's going to speak about his policies and what he wants to do as prez on his own, but I'm here as a character reference, really. So I'll take you back to the first time I met Ben, which was at the end of a very hazy Freshers Week. On the Saturday of Meet the Family, Ben is my college dad, and Libby is my college mum, and Lucy, currently absent, is my college sister. But I first met Ben at the end of Freshers Week, and from the get-go, Ben and Libby, big up to Libby as well, were immediately welcoming. They sent us a little message saying, what do you guys want to do? And on a Saturday morning, we were all very tired, so Saturday evening was a quiet one in the Bailey room. And Ben was lovely. It was really easy to get to know him from the get-go. And then from that point on, it was easy to get a hold of him, reach out, and whenever I saw him around college, we always had a light conversation about what was going on in both of our lives. First year went by in a sort of haze, as it does, but a second year kicked off, and Ben and I got to know each other really well because we were both helping with Freshers Week. And that's where we really started to, work in close proximity with long, very cold clubbing nights and horrible, horrible working conditions, including being on a boat that was shot at. If anyone remembers that, it was lovely. And that obviously grew our friendship. And that's why I'm here to tell you that Ben's a great guy. He's fantastic. A key point was that Ben was always putting a lot of effort into Freshers Week, a lot of effort into the common room, full stop. But he was also keen on maintaining friendships with the people that were around him. He wasn't all work. He was always keen for a sort of mid-afternoon mandatory 1 pint. Only one, based on the Freshers Week contract that we all had to sign. And it was me and a couple of others and Ben that would always go and grab just that 1 pint. It's developed a lot. My relationship with Ben has also developed a lot for this year. Was that 30 seconds left? 15 seconds left. I'll just keep going. Ben and I have gotten closer this year because I'm treasurer for BTC, meaning that I have a lot of questions about what the hell I'm meant to do with my budget. So Ben has been very handy with that. He's going to tell you all about himself and what his plans are very soon. But I want to tell you that he's a great guy. And I'll leave it there. Just back Ben.
Thank you very much for that very long speech. Ben, if you'd like to come up next, and you've got 8 minutes, just let me know when you want to start. He's got a timer. This is what you should have done.
Hello, as Matthew has introduced me, I'm Ben. I'm a fourth-year maths student here at Johns. I will probably try and keep my speech to time, unlike my proposer speech. So I've held a number of roles across the SJCR in the last three and a half years. I started off on the yearbook committee with Libby and Alice, who was then elected president. I then had to resign a couple of weeks later because I was elected as services manager, a role which I held for 2 years. And then for the last year, I've held the SJCR treasurer role. Although my list of roles isn't particularly long, I have worked with quite a lot of teams and worked on a lot of projects, including helping SEC with events, the Constitutional Reform Committee. I took on the responsibilities of Vice President undergraduate for a while we didn't have anyone filling that role. So I do have a fair amount of experience across the common room. So my manifesto outlined 4 key goals. The first was accessibility, which to me goes hand in hand with inclusivity, but I was running out of words in my manifesto, so I just went with the one. So the SJCR should be accessible to all students, regardless of background, regardless of common room, regardless of income. It should be accessible for all students, and that goes for all our activities. So I will work with the Reps and Welfare Representation Committee to help increase our accessibility with all our events, make sure that they are consulted with any changes to plans, those kind of things. This also goes with financial accessibility. So we have a number of funds available within Johns. We have the Members Fund, which has been around for quite a while, but is underused at the moment. We recently publicised that. Thank you to Lucy for that. We also, this year, established the SJCR Ball Fund. So that was a policy that I wrote and introduced, and we opened that for Bailey Ball. I think we enabled 10 people to get a discount on their ticket, and we're hoping to increase that number for Summer Ball as well. So I want to make sure that events are value for money for all Johns students. So whether that is decreasing ticket prices or evaluating what the event should be doing and what we can offer with our events and our summer event program. My second goal was sports and societies, keeping them free. So this summer, Maiden Castle threatened a rather large increase, which would not have fitted in any budget that I could have made. they were considering a £3,000 increase to pitch fees. That did mean that we were, at the time, considering introducing sports fees, but we didn't have to do that. Thankfully, they went back on their word. Anna is currently working with other common rooms to kind of push back on that, and I want to continue that if I was elected president. So I would work with other common rooms and push back against Maiden Castle and the college sport coordinator on their pitch prices to make sure that we can still offer free sports and societies for as long as we can. So my third goal was reopening the Toasty Bar. So as far as I'm aware, no one here has seen the Toasty Bar open. It has not been open for as long as I've been here, but there are stories about it being open beforehand and being shut down for various reasons, mostly food hygiene related. If I were to reopen the Toasty Bar, we would not have any food hygiene problems. I would make sure that everyone was food hygiene trained, and we did actually follow those procedures. So I started off my time as services wanting to open the Toasty Bar. This is yet to happen. I think it would be nice to finish my time at John's making that happen. I would work with college staff, college officers, and the bar to kind of work out the logistics of this, where it's opening, when it's opening, those kind of things, because at the moment there isn't really a good space available to us. So it would involve working fairly closely with college and the bar on making that happen. My fourth goal was financial transparency. So this is something that's kind of carried over from my Treasurer Manifesto, something I've been working on this year, and something that I'd like to continue working on next year as well. So before, like a few years ago, there wasn't really much financial transparency. People didn't really know where their membership fee went. Yes, the budget was presented once a year, but it wasn't published on the website. People weren't aware where it went. There was nothing on social media to explain where people's money went. So this is the first year that we have published the SJCR budget on our website. This allows students to find out where their money has gone, kind of see what we're spending money on and what our priorities are, and give them an opportunity to challenge it. We also changed our financial year, and one effect of that was that the budget is now presented at the first meeting of the year at Michaelmas 1, rather than Epiphany 1. This one shortens this meeting, which is already very long, and two allows new students to know where their money has gone before they have to pay their college invoice. So they are making a more informed decision on what they are paying for when they join the SJCR. Finally, I want to, on the financial transparency, I want to try and publish some summaries of events budgets, so kind of where money is going, kind of what your ticket gets you, to give a breakdown of that and try and explain our ticket pricing, because I'm aware that some ticket prices do seem high, and it's not always clear why they are the price they are. Yes. So my experience, I've worked with the last 4 presidents, Anna, Thomas, Alice, and Molly, in various roles on their execs. I've helped Thomas and Anna with various tasks that the president undertakes, especially as treasurer. I've worked very closely with Anna to kind of work with other common rooms and make things happen within the SJCR. I also sit on the IndieCom, which is the Independent Common Room Committee, a subcommittee of the President's Committee for the university. We meet 2 or 3 times a term to discuss issues that affect independent common rooms. So we discuss exciting things like that, but also the Maiden Castle increases, kind of sabbatical officers, anything that affects independent common rooms but doesn't affect the common rooms that are part of their college. Finally, I've also provided papers and reports for trustees. So for the trustee meetings, they meet 2 or 3 times a term. I have written reports on the Constitutional Reform Committee, the SJCR's reserves, the Maiden Castle increases, and presented the budget. So I am fairly well versed in presenting things to the trustee board and providing reports on what we're getting up to. Finally, through being treasurer, that's quite a lot of time. I've kind of increased my time management skills quite a lot. I also have experience working in teams, leading teams, managing those kind of things. from being on the exec of the University Scout and Guide Group. And I also have experience dealing with confidentiality and complaints around student matters and student groups.
Thank you very much, Ben. So now we're going to do questions of clarification for Ben. So these are just questions related to his HUS and his manifesto that you want. If you want something clarified that he said in either of those things, then this is the time to ask for it now. So does anyone have any questions of clarification? Yeah.
How feasible do you think reopening the Toasty Bar actually is?
We did get close a couple of years ago. There was a proposal that was considered. College were kind of considering it. They wanted kind of more information from us. Unfortunately, it turned out the person who was proposing reopening the Toasty Bar had given 2 different proposals to us. So it is possible. We just need to work closely with college to get it done. I definitely think it could be done within the next year.
Anyone have any other questions of clarification? Okay, I think we're going to move on to Dilly then. Thank you, Ben. So Luke, yeah, so we're going to have 3 minutes for Dilly's proposer, Luke, first. So let me know when you want to start.
Yeah.
I can get the timer going.
Cool. Right, well, I think I'm ready to go. Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Luke. So I'm proposing for Dilly here for SJCR President. I suppose, really, I'm here to sing the praises of Dilly, though maybe not be singing as quite as well as Dilly, before she goes on 8 minutes of going on about why she wants to be president. So without dallying, I'll get on and very quickly explain why Dilly would be the best president for the SJCR. First of all, a little bit about what the president of the SJCR should do and who they should be. The president needs to know what they're doing. I think that makes sense. They need to have knowledge of the ins and outs of college life, including formals, Bailey and summer balls, other events like Brewfest, and all the musical and theatrical life in college, which includes all the shows and that have been put on over the years. Sports, I'm sure, is also very important to Dilly, although it might not be her strong point. But I think there are some rumours that she might be appearing for her first league appearance for John's Mixed Lax. So that's always good. And then the president also needs to know how the SJCR runs as well, I think. So last year, Dilly was secretary of the John's Music Society and worked with the whole team to put on some great events over the year. This year, Dilly has taken up the role of president for JMS. So if last year is anything to go by, we should be looking forward to some pretty great things this year, now that she's at the reins. And that'd be quite nice. JMS secretary, JMS president, and then maybe SJCR president next year. She obviously enjoyed being secretary so much last year. She ran for president this year. So we can expect some really good things next year if she's SJCR president. Dilly's also a part of the SEC, the Social Events Committee, and gave a helping hand in organising 2021's Bailey Ball, which I think everyone here who was at Bailey Ball in 2021 could say was a pretty good success. Of course, it wasn't all down to Dilly. She was a helping hand, but she was working with a pretty fantastic team of people on the SEC to pull off something that wasn't an easy task. And I think this nicely highlights Dilly's ability and willingness to work within a team, however large or small her role is. She's always able to contribute and help steer a team in the right direction. And this is undoubtedly a great resource to have, being SJCR president. But out of all these things, one of the most important features of being SJCR president is being a friendly face and being fun and an enthusiastic person. Well, Dilly definitely covers these assets very well. She's always keeping herself busy, either with singing in chapel choirs around Durham or representing college at open days and Frepping, or even running the sensational a cappella group Durham Dynamics. Dilly is an incredibly enthusiastic and caring and friendly person who would love to be your SJCR president and continue the great work here in John's going forward. So I'll leave it over to her now to talk about herself. Brilliant.
Thank you, Luke. Now, Dilly, you've got your 8 minutes to speak, so let me know when you want to start.
I don't think I'm that tall. Sorry, I'm also really ill. I feel quite dizzy, so please bear with me. It's okay, I will get there. Can I put my own timer on at the same time, like Ben did? Fab. Cool. Right. Hi everyone, my name is Dilly, and a lot of you are probably thinking, why is she here? To be honest, I get what you mean. However, there is multiple reasons why I would love to be your SJCR president. So I can be the most dedicated president for Johns through things like what Lucas said. I've got involved in college all over, just not the SJCR exec as such. So like Luke said, I'm JMS Pres, I was JMS Secretary, I've been in SEC, I was a FREP, I was on the welfare team for a brief stint. I've kind of been everywhere. And I feel like I've been involved in an awful lot of different groups of people. I'm often in the bar, I'm often, I don't know, walking around college. I live here, yeah, that's great. Anyway, so I feel that I can get to people from all over the college. I feel like I can reach out and make a change, I guess. So that's one of my main points, is that I am a fresh face for Johns, as in JCR Pres. So as a non-SJCR exec member, I do feel like I can take a completely fresh face and new points to what I could kind of look at policies, look at new stuff, look at everything around and think, with fresh eyes, what could we possibly do differently? I'm not saying that a lot of things need changing at all, but there is possibly that opinion in some places in college that there could be a benefit for me being a fresh face to this. So with that, I've got my 3 promises, which are 3 I's, which are inclusivity, information, and inspiration. So I'm going to go through each of them quickly just to kind of give what I mean by that. So firstly, I think at Durham that we do have the lowest intake of state school education, like students. So it can feel easy, speaking from a personal point, that sometimes you can feel slightly lost in this, I feel. But I'm not saying that that's, for everybody, cost is an issue, I would say, especially with the housing crisis, with prices all over, stuff is crazy. And I think that's something I'd really like to push in terms of, obviously, inclusivity and making stuff more affordable and working further with what they've done already. So how would I do this? So events, obviously, bringing costs down. But I understand that some of you might be sitting there thinking, what does she know? How she doesn't know how any of this. But I think I can bring a fresh perspective to this. I can look at what costs are being put forward. I can talk to more students all over, see what they actually think is relevant to actual events and what's important there. So more transparency and talking to people what they actually want a little bit more. So a little bit more about the housing crisis, which I understand is completely taken by Kate there. However, I would like to make this more of a bigger thing. So literally as soon as freshers enter college, it's stressful. Give them the information to know exactly how that can be. So increase more housemate mixers and encourage how important it is not to rush as well, because I feel like that was a big thing for me. The other thing is societies with inclusivity. So obviously, I'm not sporty. However, I have a lot of friends who do lots of sports. And I'd say this is a part that college do really, really well and SJCR runs really well. However, being in the JMS side and theatre-wise, I think there could be some more kind of beginner-friendly activities to bring people who aren't sports very easy access to go and try something beginning. However, with the societies, this is something I feel like we could work on and possibly, just let people know exactly what's happening and create these kind of activities. So also, possibly talking to alumni who have been part of the SJCR societies and things, just to see if they've got any, they can run workshops, we could create more, possibly bursary scholarships to help within the SJCR societies themselves. So possibly funding music lessons or funding drama lessons or something like that for somebody who's really keen to get going, but they just obviously haven't had the first start to start with, that they have that money to be able to do it. So information-wise, I would say this is possibly the wrong crowd to say it to. However, I do feel there is a slight opinion that the SJCR can be slightly cliquey and yeah, I was petrified to run for this role, I'm not going to lie. However, every single person is lovely. We need to push the idea that every single SJCR member, they're doing it because they love college. They're doing it because they want to make college better. I think it needs to be promoted further when people enter college, how inclusive, how inspiring, how everything it can be within the SJCR itself. So yeah, I'd really like to give freshers, this is one of my things, a big document with, a friendly kind of introduction at the very start in Freshers Week about what the SJCR can do and what it can do for you. One example is, one of my friends is in wine and cheese, and they did manifesto a while ago and got a load of money for wine and cheese. And he was like, oh my God, really? The SJCR can do that? Yes. Nobody knows. Sometimes I feel like that's possibly to push it a little bit further and let people know exactly what it can do for you as well. So the other side is inspiration. I'd like to bring back music, especially theatre, sports, to what they were before COVID. John Joe will tell you as well, but there's posters and posters of what JMS used to be like before, COVID. It can become that again. We just need to, I think, maybe rethink the freshers' fairs, stuff like that. We could think it through slightly differently, meet with college societies, what they think will bring people specifically to their sports and societies, talk to freshers when they get here, what do they want from it, so meet with people individually quite a bit to kind of bring back kind of participation within the sports and societies themselves. Yeah, so I'm going to be really honest with you. There are going to be things that I don't understand now. However, I am so willing to get to know every single policy, every single committee, I am that kind of person that once I'm in something, I'm really in it. I will get to know, I will learn, I will talk to people, I will get out there and spread what the SJCR means to me and what it means to people everywhere. And I understand that change is scary, so voting me is probably, but however, I do think this can be seen as a possible way to make fresh eyes as such. I'd really like to be your SJCR president, to make this more of a thing, I guess, to bring in, I also think if I were to get it, then people who are all over college that have thought, I'm never going to be part of the SJCR, they might think they have a slight more chance as such, or understanding of what the SJCR can be and what they can do for it. So if this was the possibility, I think we could get people in from all over college. I could spread that a little bit further, get them to understand what fresh face as such mean, so that we could talk to people all over and that sort of thing. So yeah, I've waffled quite a bit there, feel a bit dizzy. But also, the other thing is with the bursaries and scholarships and stuff, I'd really like to make a central point of where, even if they're college ones, through the SJCR to work with college to signpost these. So one thing is I went to Edinburgh Fringe with Durham Dynamics a cappella. I'm nearly done. And the college gave me a chunk of money so that I could afford to go to Fringe. Nobody knew about that. I didn't know about that. People need to know about what's actually in college, what the SJCR can do, and what that sort of thing. But yeah, don't dally, vote Dilly.
Dilly, if you want to come back, if you want to stay up. So we're now going to go on to question of clarification for Dilly. So remember, if you've got anything that you want clarified about her manifesto or her husk, then you can ask that now. Go with Libby first.
Right, okay.
So I think you have a really good point about the SJCR sometimes seeing league and stuff like that. It's sort of natural when you've got a group of people who have
Yes.
some interest and whatnot. And the thing is that we often try,
Mhm.
because I know the whole time I've lived, so I've followed here now, we've always had an agenda of let's try and make information more accessible so it
Yep.
seems less scary, and we try and we do in the freshman handbook, lay out what it is and explain what it is and try and give people ways to get involved. We do the meeting at the start of Freshers Week. So what is the key thing you think that will kind of make that feel more accessible
Yeah.
from somebody who's been there less involved?
Mhm.
What would you want to bring forward? What's your ideas around that? Because it's a great point.
Yeah.
But I think the how is always really the difficult part.
Okay, yeah. So one of the things that I was thinking of originally, which I didn't mention, sorry, is, in the form that college send out and they ask you, your room preference and stuff like that, there could be a section that, outlines what the SJCR is. So one section of that could be asking what hobbies you have, a bit more, what sports you do, and then an explanation of what the SJCR does specifically for that sort of thing, so society. So people already know before they come what the SJCR is doing for them once they enter college, way before they even like enter college, and then emphasize that slightly later, possibly bringing it in before they come to uni still, what the SJCR can do. But then I suppose, like you say, it is hard when Freshers Week and what people actually think and do with their time. I think there's ways to talk to people sometimes that people will take it if, I'm saying in a fun setting, but there are ways that we can bring in Freshers events and talking to people within the Freshers events themselves. So possibly really early on in Freshers Week, maybe switch around so that they know the Freshers Fair is earlier on in that week, so people know what's happening. I think as well, possibly more terms of TikTok-y things, possibly. It makes it easier. I love a good TikTok. Scrolling through, you've got a whole thing that tells you exactly what's happening, here, where, when, what the SJCR is, make it fun, interview the exec more often. Love your hand over your thingy even on Instagram. Cool. But that sort of thing makes stuff, I feel, so much more inclusive, because if you are seeing what people actually do in their job, what they're doing for college, I think it makes it a lot easier to get people involved. So I think publicity and media now is so much more important than maybe it was a couple of years ago. So in that sort of thing, I think pushing that. But yes.
Do you have any more questions or clarification?
Loads of them. Great.
Rosie.
So like a lot of your manifesto, like what you just said,
Yep.
Like beginner-friendly activities.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a really good initiative, but like a lot of it takes time. Like from like doing social media myself, like a lot of that takes a good chunk out of my day, like when I sit to do it. And like there are already like events that like kind of struggle because people like have a degree to like prioritize and like just don't have hours in the day that they want to dedicate. So like how would you increase that kind of volunteer participation to actually run the events?
Yeah, okay. So, I'm speaking as someone who doesn't prioritise their degree very often. However, I think there are things you can do to get people more intrigued. For example, so with JMS, obviously, there is the big band. The other week, we performed, as a band in the corner during formals. And if we could make this a thing so that we have a function band possibly talk to college and get this more involved, then more for music and theatre kind of aspect things, if people have more performance opportunities, people are going to get more involved and more wanting to volunteer as such, because they know what college is seeing back to them and what people around who come and see how that's benefiting, if that makes sense. There was also last year we did the Secret Garden thing. Does anybody remember that? Yeah, big band played at that. We had actually loads of people come in just from the public who were praising big band and how good we were. And actually after that, that's when I created Dilly's Dinos, because the boys who were in that band were like, oh my gosh, people are actually coming and seeing that we're actually doing well and we're actually doing good. People are actually wanting to come and see us. So that got a whole group of people that probably would not be involved in any sort of JMS or SJCR thing involved, and they were doing performance. So I think there are ways that you can create more more relevant stuff sometimes, and pushing a little bit forward with I said it again, but media and stuff like that. I know it takes time doing social media, but once you do get a response from it, it feels good. When I was posting my posts, I was like, yay, people have liked it. And so it makes you want to do it a bit more, I guess. Yes. Does that make sense? Cool.
Yeah, I think we're going to move on from that now.
Cool.
Sorry, because just in terms of time. So, Emmy's proposal, are you ready to go?
If you do have any more questions, do feel free to ask Dilly. I'm sure Dilly would be more than happy to answer them. Yeah.
Yeah, so 3 minutes. Let me know when you want to start.
Yeah. Now. Hi, so I'm Liv, for anyone that doesn't know me. I'm a second year studying classical civilization, and I'm here to talk about why I think Emmy is a candidate worthy of your vote. So in roles of leadership, I think Emmy definitely thrives, and I've seen that for myself. I first worked with Emmy in Freshers Week when I was on the DEX team and she was leading the DEX team, and college ended up looking so good. I'm sure many of you remember, and that was all down to Emmy and the organisational skills that she has really contributed to that and made that entirely possible. We met multiple times before prep week had even begun, and throughout prep week she always had a plan. As a leader, she guided her team, but she still encouraged us to contribute and to make our own creative suggestions and ideas. And most importantly, I think, is how she acknowledged her team as individuals. When we were tired or we needed a break, she understood completely. I think her genuine care that she has for others makes her an exceptional leader. We also work together in the social events committee. I'm going to admit I know far less about what Emmy does as deputy, because usually I'm so concerned and panicked with what's going on with my SEC stuff. I have no clue about anyone else's. But I do know that as part of her role as deputy, Emmy liaises with college, which is obviously a really necessary skill for a presidential candidate to have. Generally on SEC, she ensures that things run smoothly, and she helps out wherever and whenever she's needed. She's an all-rounder. She goes above and beyond so much of the time as well. I've had many an enjoyable glass washing session with Emmy the day after particularly tiring events, Bailey Ball I remember, and she makes it so enjoyable that I completely forget I'm like exhausted. And me and Emmy are also friends. As a friend, she's thoughtful, caring, and has always shown up for me when I've needed. I think these qualities would mean she'd be an amazing pres. I'll wrap it up and let Emmy speak, but I'd like to finish by acknowledging that all the candidates you've heard from tonight are undoubtedly merited and qualified, but for the reasons I've explored, I think Emmy shines through. And I implore you to listen really carefully to her speech and witness for yourself her passion and dedication to this college. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're now going to have Emmy's 8 minutes, and if you'd like to let me know when you want to start.
Yeah. Sorry, I need to unlock my tablet. So first of all, massive thank you to Liv for that introduction. The first time that I ever gave a speech in front of more than just my class was actually at my sixth form open evening. And amongst other things, I spoke about the A-levels I was taking, maths, further maths and physics, to which I distinctly remember a girl sat on the front row shuddering at that combination. But what I want to reflect on now is a piece of advice that I shared then, which I still live by now. Whatever choice you make, do it because you love it. For that girl, I'm assuming that maths wasn't quite on the cards, but I've been at Johns for 4 years now, and I've been involved in the SJCR since my first year, and honestly, I've loved it. I'm sure that many people in this room are familiar with the feeling of prioritizing SJCR work over your degree work, even when you probably shouldn't. And whilst I do enjoy my engineering degree, and ultimately will find a career in that field, why wouldn't I want the chance to do something I love for another year? But what's more important right now is why I believe that I'm the best candidate for this position. And to give you a one-sentence summary, I have the knowledge, the dedication, and the organization to do right by the SJCR. So let me break that down a bit for you. Firstly, over my time at Johns, I've held 9 different positions around college, so I'll fire them off quickly now. SJCR Vice President, undergraduate, Junior Bar Officer, Deputy Events Officer, Food and Formals Officer, LGBTQ+ Rep, FREP, SEC Food and Wine Officer, Open Day Rep, and Library Rep. There's so many, I had to write a full list. So through those positions, I'm lucky enough to have been able to work with a whole range of teams, and worked with people from the trustee board, to college officers, to the campaigns team, to SEC, and they've given me a knowledge of how these different teams work, both within themselves and with others. It's meant that not only do I have an understanding of how these teams may want to be supported, but I know how to get their input. Of course, my knowledge is not limitless, and the people within such teams change and grow, and so do their needs. But the true strength in my knowledge of the SJCR's teams and structures is not what I currently know, but that I have the ability to understand the wider picture. So, for example, as Liv mentioned, I led the DEX team for this Freshers Week. Because I'd been involved the past few years, I was aware of things like what areas of college might be used and what limitations there may be. But what made the role enjoyable was working with the members of the DEX team to create sustainable and creative decorations that used their skills and ideas. My knowledge meant that I could focus on the people within the team and help them have an enjoyable experience. As president, I would look to apply this philosophy on an even greater scale, supporting volunteers and learning more about the wonderful people that make up the SJCR along the way. Another strength is my dedication. There's been many an SJCR event where I've been one of the first to arrive and last to leave, because I find joy in working with a whole range of people, hearing what they love doing, and knowing that I can give back to them. In the future, that will manifest as me making sure your trains run on time. But for now, I can work a bit closer to home. I'm sure that some of you have heard this story from me, so forgive the repetition, but I want to share the tale of how I got involved in the SJCR. So, picture the scene. I was at dinner in first year, eating in the old library because that would stop the spread of COVID, apparently. And I turned to a returner on my corridor and said, "So what's this SJCR malarkey then?" Little did I know, I was talking to one of the most involved people in the SJCR, Thomas Jackson. And there was an SJCR meeting that evening. Suffice it to say that by the end of the evening, I had run for 2 different positions, and I haven't looked back since. Stories like this, and ones I've heard from friends, reinforce the idea that the SJCR is people-driven. It takes people with care and dedication to keep it running, and to share their excitement with others. As president, I would ensure, using my dedication, that people can access and enjoy everything the SJCR has to offer, and encourage people to get involved. The final area I want to highlight is my organisation. It's all very well and good to have the knowledge and the dedication for the SJCR, but without organisation, it's like trying to slice bread with a fish. You're not going to get very far. So my organisation allows me to shape this passion into something that can benefit you, the members. If you're following my campaign on social media, which you should, or you've read my manifesto, you'll know that I have 3 major aims, the largest of which is to create a central place for all information. I'm sure I'm not the only person who's experienced the hunt through emails and social media to find a piece of information I remember seeing somewhere. As president, I would create a one-stop shop for all information, whether that be an upcoming event, open volunteering positions, funding, grants, you name it. This in turn would reduce the number of emails sent, since we would no longer rely on them as our main method of communication. To do this, I would first investigate how our SJCR members currently interact with our communications and get feedback on what they like and don't like. Using these responses, I'd make a clear plan on how information could be shared, ensuring that everything is available on one central hub. So, for example, that may be the SJCR website. Something I want to stress here is that I don't want to get rid of all the Instagram accounts or Facebook groups we currently have. They're an important resource to build community, plan socials, or just share when a training time is. These groups are valuable, but spreading key information across dozens of places on different platforms, and only in those places, makes it really hard for willing members to get involved. My other 2 aims both fall under student representation. As president, I would make sure that SJCR members are heard at both a college and a university level, especially in pressing matters such as the housing crisis and the increasing cost of living. It's vital that as students, our voice is heard, and as president, I would take the responsibility of carrying it seriously. But to be a representative of John's students, it's crucial that I can listen to what matters to you and where your concerns lie. There are some established ways of giving feedback, whether that be emailing or messaging the SJCR exec or going to a president's drop-in. But I think it's worth acknowledging that these can both be intimidating. Whether it be you don't know who the person to ask is, you're afraid your question is silly, or any other myriad of reasons. And I think that they're not used frequently enough. I would like to encourage ongoing feedback using a method informed by the communication survey I mentioned. But in addition to that, I would create a feedback form which is open at all times, allowing you to give input on anything the SJCR does. And this form would be written in an accessible manner and trial the option of giving anonymous feedback to help you feel comfortable in raising any suggestions. I hope I've given you a good explanation as to why I'm the best candidate for SJCR president, and I thank you for your time and attention. To summarize, I have the knowledge, the dedication, and the organisation to do right by the SJCR. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emmy. So now we're going to have questions of clarification for Emmy on her manifesto and her HUST. Are there any questions of clarification? Ollie.
So when I was reading your manifesto, I was a little bit surprised to see that you didn't include anything about inclusivity on your manifesto, whereas the other two candidates did include things about that.
Yeah.
Is this something you're committed to if you get elected as president, or is it something that maybe you don't want to focus on as much when you want to focus on the other priorities?
Yeah. So inclusivity is, well, I mean, as I said in my HUST, the SJCR is people-driven, and people come from a range of backgrounds, whether that be your religion, your financial background, your sexuality, all of the above and more. And so it is therefore vital in what we are doing as a charity. I think that it is quite a big issue. We've had the EDI survey that was done this year, which is helping to inform things that college are doing. But I think it's one of those things that you can't have some massive grand plan and say, this will fix inclusivity. It doesn't work like that. It's one of those things you work on slowly over time with help of people like our reps and campaigns officer. So it's one of those things that I would continue to work towards throughout the duration of being president.
Do we have any other questions of clarification? Jojo? Yeah. Yeah. So the first major consideration in that would be, for example, having all the information on Facebook wouldn't work because not everyone has a Facebook. So whatever it may be, it has to be something that everyone can access. Hence, I said maybe the website might be a place that that's used. And second of all, whatever format it is put in, I want to make sure that, first of all, if you don't speak English as a first language, there is an ability for you to translate that, which, if it's on a website, that makes it a lot easier to do so. And second of all, that it's something you can get at any time and it's not going to disappear or shift around too much. So, for example, Instagram stories would not be the primary place for all information to be put. I hope that answers your question. Do you have any more questions of clarification? No? Okay, well, if Ben and Dilly would want to join Emmy, and then we can have some general questions for all three candidates.
Yeah. Where would you like us to stand?
Would you like to stand or sit?
Sit? Do you want to sit?
Stand or sit? Have a vote.
Okay.
That's it.
Yeah. Yes. We just take I'll go in the middle. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to have it? You can answer the first question first.
Okay. Slow. Why are you sitting there?
Are you guys all ready? Sorry, just wanted a bit of order. Right, so we're now going to go on to general questions. So these aren't restricted to just what the candidates' manifestos and their HUS. You can ask questions about anything related to their campaigns, but please make sure that any question you ask is a question directed to all three, so all three can answer it rather than anything specific to an individual. So do we have any general questions for all three candidates? Jonathan?
Running the SJCR isn't just about college life, which I think is what all three of you really focused on. You'll also be running a registered charity, which comes with significant responsibility. So what experience do each of you have with dealing with the legal and administrative sides of the SJCR, which I think you've skipped over so far?
Ben, do you want to... Oh, sorry. I'll say who goes first, but Ben, do you want to go first?
I feel like this microphone is going to be annoying. But, so I am currently a trustee of both SJCRs. We are in a weird situation where we have two of them at the moment. I'm also a trustee of my Scout district back home, so I've got plenty of experience being a trustee, especially of the SJCR, presenting things to the trustees, kind of being responsible for the actions of the SJCR, which ultimately the trustees are. We can be sued and have legal action taken against us. And I'm comfortable with that, otherwise I would not currently be treasurer.
Hello.
So last year I was Vice President Undergraduate, which is also a trustee of the charity. I was also a trustee in probably what was one of the busiest legal points that we've ever had as a charity, whilst we were writing our new constitution, starting to look at moving across to a new charity, which I understand is still ongoing. But also I think it's worth saying that we're not going to know exactly everything. You know, I have not studied an entire degree on how to run a charity, but there is a lovely thing called Google, which has all the information. And I've used it before for a few different things, and it has been, things like the Charity Commission's website is very helpful. And if in doubt, you can give them a call, and they tend to be quite helpful. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Well, as you expect, Jonathan, I probably don't have much experience in reading about charitable organisations. However, I did read a bit today, pre-warned by certain people, and I do understand, I get it. However, I do have stuff in other roles, such as in Durham Student Music. I have had to deal with contracts and legal stuff to do with that. So I am a quick learner in terms of I can read something and understand what's happening, and yes, that's all I can say, really.
Thank you very much. Have we got any more questions? Yes, you.
How do you see the role of the CCR and Cromwell Hall in the SJCR presidency?
Dilly, do you want to start?
Yeah, okay. I would like to include everybody. That's kind of the whole point. So I think sometimes that's kind of what I've said in my manifesto and stuff, is that stuff can seem quite daunting or in that sort of terms. So maybe when I start, if I started the role, then within this whole SJCR information to everybody, then it would mean other people will know what the SCR and the CCR are too. I think I was probably well through my second year before I actually understood any of that sort of stuff. So I think it's very key for individuals to know from freshers who these people are, who everyone is, what the common rooms actually mean, and that can be done through like media, as I said before, and stuff like that. I think it's just inclusivity and just getting, I want them to be as included like as in the SJCR as I could possibly make them. Yeah.
Me next. Yeah, me next. Woohoo. So I was having a little reread of the Constitution before today, and I came across a lovely little line in it that I want to share now. The rest of it is very like legal and, if I'm honest, not the most exciting thing you'll ever read. But there's a lovely little line that goes, "In the execution of all their duties, the SJCR officers shall recognise the significant and unique contributions of the MCR and CCR to St John's College," which I think is a very nice little line. But I think the big thing to recognise here is that they are a little bit separate to the undergraduates, and sometimes that is something that we want to break down those barriers and help them feel welcome in things that we're doing. But then also they have those support groups for a reason. You know, us as undergraduates, fresh out of A-levels, are not going to relate to someone that is going back to uni when they're like 35. So letting them have those groups and supporting those groups is actually really beneficial for them, while still maintaining that they are welcome at any of the events that we're running and making sure that they are as accessible to them as we can.
I would also recognise kind of the difference between them. So I know a lot of Cranmer students aren't too interested in coming along to some of the SJCR events. We don't normally have high turnout at Bailey Ball or Summer Ball, which is completely understandable. Quite a lot of them have families or partners and just don't want to spend a night with a load of undergrads, which is fair enough. But also, they do get involved with formals, and one of our best attended events by the CCR is the Shrove Tuesday pancakes that we run. I upped that budget this year. Yes. Yeah, it is important to include them, but again, it is important to recognise differences between the common rooms and support any kind of events that the CCR want to run and try and kind of engage the CCR members with undergrads as well. And the same goes for the MCR. Libby.
So one thing that I'm really keen on that I mentioned when I ran for exec was that I think the SJCR can often seem like a thing that's very much wrapped up in its own policies, but I think we need to remember we are actually students at the end of the day, and it should still be fun, and I think it should very much be a personal aspect to all of the roles that are there. And I think my question would be, how would you sort of make sure that alongside doing the policies and keeping up with the employment side of the job, how would you have a personal relationship with the students so that they feel that they get to know you? Like, I think it's a thing that a lot of presidents have thought they would love to do, but it's always quite hard to do. So like this year, Anna's been on the sports teams, she's out taught to the Freshers Week and stuff like that, just to try and create a connection. What would you bring to a connection with the students and how would you get there?
Emmy, would you like to start?
My turn. I think you can do this in both like an organized way and a more sort of natural, like unorganized way. So regardless of what happens, the president lives in college, which naturally means that there's a bunch of points where you're going to meet people at meal times, in the Bailey room, or just, in the post room. So just taking that chance to go, hey, who are you? Like, what are you studying? And like just chatting to them, getting to know them. And I am a very extroverted person, and as I spoke about in my host, I love getting to know people. So I think that would come naturally to me. And then in terms of the organized side of things, I think that's especially where things like the president's drop-in come in, because you're sort of visible in a very central area of college, which means that people can just, come by and chat to you, even if it's not to give detailed feedback, it's just to say, oh yeah, we did really well in that rugby game. You can have conversations that way as well. So yeah, I think it's about being aware that there's different methods of getting to interact with SJCR members, and sometimes not about putting too much pressure onto it, because you don't want to feel forced to talk to someone. Who next?
Diggy, do you want to go next?
I really like people. So through this, I love a chat. Was it last night, the formal? Yes, I was on a table and I knew nobody. I was in my element. It was great. I was just waffling about everything. That would be one thing I would want to do. I would want to get involved, talk to every individual, go find a table at lunch or dinner and be like, hi, I'm Dilly. I like this. Do you like this? Yeah. Also, I would still be very involved in all sports and societies if I'm allowed to, such as mixed lacrosse. And also, yes, maybe one day I might just be a mascot. But yeah, I think I'm quite a friendly, outgoing person. I like talking. I like getting to know people. I think that's one of my strengths, so hopefully, yes.
Yeah, as Libby mentioned in her question, Freshers Week is a great place to kind of introduce yourself to people. You obviously do the talk on the first and second nights, so people are aware who you are. This is probably one of the aspects of the role that I'd struggle with the most, but in the words of Thomas Jackson, forced socializing is good. So I would force myself to kind of sit with people at lunch, at dinner, talk to new people, get to know everyone in the community, and not just speak to people I already know.
Anyone else got any questions? James.
The environment speech quite heavily tonight. How would you make the SJCR more sustainable, and would you commit to a exec position for sustainability?
Ben, do you want to start?
So I've been involved in the discussions about Environment Committee and the kind of environment manifesto that was proposed to the exec last year from the start. I know the exec have considered various different things. They're currently working on a sustainability policy, which I've reviewed, kind of helped write. Thank you to Libby for sorting that out. I think that is almost done, and it would be good to get that in place. I would be open to discussions around an environmental officer on the exec. It would just be down to kind of what their role is, how they fit in with the existing structure, those sort of things. But I definitely wouldn't rule it out.
Do you want to pass on?
Yeah, okay, so I think in terms of sustainability, one of the biggest sort of causes of physical waste that we have as an SJCR is events, because that's when we're making physical things the most. And it's definitely something that we have been pushing towards. We've been, so as I mentioned in my host, we used, I think all of our decorations that we made in Freshers Week could either be recycled or reused. And I know that Hannah's been working really hard on making sure that SEC is, where possible, buying things that are more sustainable and reusable and etc. So that's kind of one side of it, and I would help, I think I would really, as president, I would help like that continue, and making sure that we are still pushing towards those things and not growing complacent. In terms of having a sustainability official rep on the exec, I think that could definitely be a possibility. Some other things which I have seen done or would maybe consider is you can incorporate it into some other roles. So things like services have sort of got... Josh looks up. Because I know that services is also sitting on that environmental committee. So they could become the sort of voice of sustainability on the exec. So there's lots of different ways we could approach that, making sure that sustainability is heard at those levels within the SJCR.
So I think there are lots of things that you can do to make college more sustainable in terms of aspects all over, but I'm going to focus mainly on like college everyday life and what the SJCR could do in that sort of terms. So one idea that I did have, is quite a big project, would be to basically stock buy laundry products, like, you know, Small, is that what it's called? Like the eco-friendly laundry products. If we did that and bought them like as a whole, then people could either buy off us at like a reduced price, so that people would be using like eco-friendly like products within that during their actual like everyday kind of washing and stuff. We could do similar with things like shampoo and conditioners. There could be like, I don't know, it's a big thing again to put in like some bathrooms around college, like refillable shampoo and conditioner that could come like from an eco kind of friendly aspect, but that's quite a large project. However, it would be quite nice to kind of stock buy these sort of things that people could have more access to within college to make it slightly more eco-friendly. The other thing is possibly like talking to people all over for like events and stuff. So when you actually at the events themselves, like following through with some of the stuff that's already happened with the kind of like there was like the no meat burger thing at EcoFest and stuff like that. We could have more options like that, so things are more sustainable and eco-friendly and things like that. But yeah, yeah.
Any more questions? Yes, you.
I think one thing that you all touched on really well in your speeches and in the manifesto as well is kind of the idea of accessing information and being transparent. As a first year myself, I've had an onslaught of information thrown at me for the first term and indeed sort of before coming to uni, and I think I was just wondering, I think you definitely touched on making sure that the freshers in Freshers Week and even beforehand know about the SJCR and they kind of have this information available to them. I was just wondering, so more in the long term, how you can ensure that this information is readily available. Like, if you could maybe explain that or maybe sort of re-articulate that, you probably touched on it.
Diddy, would you like to go first?
I would. Okay, so obviously I said that I'd like to send out a large document at the start of Freshers. However, obviously, I'd like to have like a place where people could find information like easily accessible in terms of that. Obviously, maybe more so, possibly like monthly or whatever, like a link to stuff that is happening, but then take it to like more of a central point kind of thing, so that people can find all of that information, similar to what Emmy was saying, really. But yeah, in terms of just making it a bit more accessible. Also, I guess, I keep saying it, but like the social media and aspects like that, if we push it continually in terms of like actually telling people through like video form, I find a video a lot easier to understand and know what's happening than a whole massive document. Someone tells me what's going on in college, what roles there are that I can go for, what that actually includes in like that. I think that's a lot easier for me to take in. So possibly more of that on the like socials and like possibly like a YouTube channel or something similar to that.
Yeah. This is a great question because I get to talk even more about what I had to cut down for my house. So I think my idea behind having this central place for information is in the background you have this like communication plan, which will probably take a lot of time to pull into place, but luckily the president has got a reasonable amount of time to put towards these projects. So my kind of thinking would be is that we have this central place for information, which for ease for now I'm going to say is on the website. It may not be the case. But the information is still published elsewhere on things like the SJCR Instagram as it currently is. But it's just so that's sort of the way of saying, hey, look, there's more information. Go and like either you can read this summary here or you can check the place where it always is for more details. And if we have this sort of communication plan that's set out and we know that all the information we have is going to be here and then we just need to like publicize it. And how do we do that? That will vary depending on who the teams are, what their strengths are, as social media trends change, Who knows? In 5 years, maybe we'll all be posting on X. Haha. But yeah, so by having that communication plan, so people know, say you're just like a captain for a team and you want to publicize this like taster session, you know that all you need to do is send to the social media or comms officer that, hey, I want to do this thing, here's the information, and then it's taken over from there, and you don't need to worry about it. It's going to be publicized in those places. It'll just be so much easier for everyone to find that information.
I don't think there's too much to add on what's already been said. This is something that was discussed at Strategy Day last summer, the day where all SJCR members are invited to discuss kind of the SJCR strategy for next year. We focused heavily on communications. We didn't really come up with a good solution. I'm not sure there is a single good solution, but I do think that kind of trying to spread information out or trying to filter information to the most important stuff being sent via email would be a good start, and then the rest can be available via social media or on our website or wherever we choose to publish most of our information.
Hannah. Emmy, do you want to go first?
So something you may or may not know about engineering is they love to give us group projects. And group projects can sometimes be great and sometimes not great. And when you think about it, the SJCR is one massive group project. So like I have a lot of experience of working in these different groups, and sometimes it's just a case of people on different schedules, or sometimes it is a case of someone just doesn't want to do any work. And I think in those situations, the first thing you need to do is really understand where these people are coming from, because sometimes it may just be a case of, I have got 5 summiters over the next 2 weeks, I cannot do work in that time, at which point you can then take that workload, redistribute it, etc. In other situations, it may be that someone is feeling like really overwhelmed by their role, at which point you can then offer them that support and make sure that they can do, like, be their best self in that role. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think when things aren't working out in groups like the exec or even, you know, within SEC or like as you get like more into the different subgroups of the SJCR, it's all about understanding where these people are coming from and like tailoring your support in that situation to what they need. And if it's coming from a sort of situation of someone is just being downright rude or like dismissing the other people on their team, that's the point where you do need to step up and you need to say, hey, this is unacceptable, we're all giving our time here, and I'm not afraid if that sort of situation comes into play to be that person that stands up and like stands up for the other volunteers within the SJCR.
Ben, do you want to go next?
Yep, so I would also provide all the support I could to all the SJCR volunteers, no matter whether they were exec or another role. I would provide any support they asked for, kind of help them with their role if they had a lot of work with their degree coming up. If there was a conflict within either the exec or any subcommittee of the SJCR, I would work with those involved, probably the line manager and those involved in the clash, to try and resolve that, kind of sit down, work out why the clash is there, try and come to some sort of agreement. Often I find that it's that someone is trying to do their role and someone is doing parts of the role that they think is theirs, the other person thinks isn't theirs, and it is just a misunderstanding. So yeah, it normally is something that can be resolved fairly easily with just a quick conversation. But yeah, I would work with all those involved to resolve any conflicts.
Cool. Sorry. Okay, so I actually have been quite high up in the exec for Dynamics, which is a cappella group, for 2 years now. And last year, we definitely had some issues of exec members of the a cappella group not getting on, or it wasn't great. However, we got through that. I sorted it in terms of getting people to talk it through, talking with people, making things seem like into perspective, letting people know what other people have on, or not even. It's just like getting people to understand that you can get very wrapped up in yourself a lot of the time. you sometimes forget that other people have a life, other people have commitments, other people do other stuff. It's making sure that people understand that. I also think I'm quite a friendly person in terms of I will be quite like active in terms of socialising within the exec. So if groups want to do certain things or groups want to go and do, I don't know, Cozy Joe's in Newcastle to do karaoke, that would be so fun. But yes, I think that's one of my strengths in terms of talking to people and talking with people if they need to tell me something, and yeah, just keeping everything fun and friendly.
So I'm going to ask a question off the live stream now, because we've got questions coming in through the live stream. So, if are they listening on the live stream? If you're listening on the live stream, please keep submitting questions, and then I can ask them. So, this question is from someone called Wessex. Do you think our balls deliver value for money? Would you consider dramatically decreasing the ticket price or adding things? And Dilly, would you like to go first?
Yes, I would. So, obviously, I am coming at this from a perspective that doesn't quite understand all the budgeting and everything. My first call this year, I would love to dramatically reduce prices for events. But realistically, what actually happens in college and what stuff costs, it does have to be realistic. However, there are definitely things that I think I could bring to this. I think with the fresh face kind of aspect, there are stuff within the events that I could talk to people about what actually they want to be in the event itself. So if there's stuff that there is possibly we didn't need, then possibly I could bring a new perspective into actually changing that or bringing stuff down. But I would do as much as I could to bring down costs for balls and stuff. I relate.
And do you want to go next? So I will come at this from the opposite point of view from Dilly. I'm obviously currently the treasurer. I understand how the budgets work. So this is going to influence my answer quite a bit. Our balls are currently fundraising balls, which means that they don't count towards our VAT threshold. So either we charge what we currently charge and make a small surplus, or we reduce the prices and then have to charge 20% extra because we have to pay VAT on it. I would commit to reviewing all our events and trying to decrease ticket prices, but I don't think, without changing the current formats of our balls, I don't think we can reduce the ticket prices too much without that.
So I think from a practical perspective, if we're running the balls exactly as we are, as Ben has said, etc., we can't just cut the price because otherwise we won't be able to run them as we currently are. But that is the key part, run them as they currently are. One of the other things I spoke about in my host is I think ongoing feedback is really important. So if we find out that all the members of the SJCR hate having inflatables, they just hate them, then we can stop having them and we can reduce the prices. But you're not going to know that if you're not getting this feedback. So I think by having that clear feedback, it really means that people can make sure their money is going where they want it to go. And then on the other side of things, we already have a bunch of really good funding going on. So there's different grants that you can get to help you pay for your ticket, or you can split the cost of the ticket over 3 payments. And so making sure that we are publicizing those. And also if we post I've seen that we've done this for the upcoming events, and I think it's really good, publicizing the prices of tickets really far in advance means that people can budget for them and start setting money aside, a good amount of time ahead.
So I'm going to accept one from the floor. Sorry to the live stream, but we'll come back to you. Lucy, what's your question?
Okay, so as someone who came to this university with, not a very good standing in terms of the society here, very state school background, how do you think that sort of means to you? It's all well and good having all these plans being inclusivity, wow, but I feel like I need someone who I resonate with and who actually understands and cares in a way that's very personal, and so what does inclusivity mean to you, essentially?
Emmy, do you want to go first?
Okay. I feel like you give me 2 different questions there. So what does inclusivity mean to me? Is I think inclusivity to me means that there is a place where everyone can come together and be themselves. But I think it's worth acknowledging that within that, when you have 800 plus people in a room, you're not all going to have the same background, you're not all going to have the same lived experience. And I don't think, even as president, there's a way that I can suddenly make it that everyone that's gone from different schools and etc. understands automatically what everyone else has gone through. But I think what's great about university and great about the SJCR is it gives you a place to find people who have got that shared experience and find those groups of people who you can sort of resonate with. So I think it's about encouraging those relationships, which we already do through all our sort of sports and societies, but then still having these big events like balls where people can come together and really enjoy the only word that's coming to mind is melting pot, but I don't want to use that. But you know what I mean, of the college, of everyone coming together from different backgrounds.
Diddy, do you want to go next?
Yes. So I think that, no, I am a fellow state schooler. I did go to state school, so I do resonate with a lot of the points that Lucy made there in terms of sometimes it can feel quite daunting in a place like this, that an awful lot of people come from places that have a lot more money or went to a private school. However, I did incredibly make friends with people who have been to possibly one of the poshest private schools in the UK, and I'm also friends with people who have struggled with money the whole time. I think pushing the fact that inclusivity in terms of you can be friends with everybody, you need to give everybody a chance in terms of people are lovely, people are nice, people obviously can be horrible too, but I think there is a point that, Eloise, are you laughing at me? That was really rude. Anyway, yes, inclusivity for me is very important. Obviously, I resonate with people who are struggling with money because I have been there myself. I do know how it feels to not have the amount of money to pay for something that somebody else could easily go and get. So I do understand that. I do know what it's like to be like that. But it's pushing the point that you can be friends with anyone. People are so open to being friends with anyone, and pushing that to terms of people are inclusive, people are generally really welcoming, people are incredibly lovely. You just need to give everybody a shot and everybody a chance, and I think that's important to an inclusive community.
So inclusivity to me is kind of everyone having somewhere within the SJCR to belong, having a group to interact with. Obviously, it would be ideal if all these groups kind of got to know each other, built bridges between the communities. But to start with, that's not always possible. People tend to stick with people from similar backgrounds, at least to start with, until they get to know people. So, to me, it would be having someone you can speak to within the SJCR, whether that is a rep on the campaigns team or just someone within the SJCR and their friends.
So I'm going to go to sorry. I'm going to go to another live stream question from Iona. What are your plans to further involve international students in the SJCR? What are your thoughts on the international representative being on the exec, as the current exec does not have that? And yeah, sure. So it was. What are the candidates' plans to further involve international students in the SJCR? What are their thoughts on an international representative on the exec, as the current exec does not have this? And who hasn't started yet? Ben, do you want to start?
Yep. So this was something that was raised to the exec last year, I think. We did consider it. We just didn't feel that the international rep role was, in its current form at least, large enough to be on exec. We would consider, or I would consider, adding them to the exec or adopting a current role to include more of the international focus, to kind of give more representation on the exec, but kind of a more concrete plan would be needed with that.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Wait, me or Dylan?
You.
Sorry, this is getting really confusing. I don't know who's going where. Okay, so I think that it is really important that we acknowledge that our international representation, especially in the exec with the SJCR, is not particularly high, aka 0. So I think we had a really good Freshers Week this year in terms of getting the international freshers involved. And we've definitely seen that. There's definitely greater presence of them this year in the things that we are doing, the events that we're running. And hopefully that will continue to work through, as in those people will be encouraged to therefore run for positions and then get involved and then eventually maybe run for an exec position. So I think it's really important, first of all, that we continue that work and make sure that Freshers Week not only helps those international students feel welcome in Durham, but also shows them what they could do whilst they're here, and helps them to integrate with the sort of home students who will then arrive about a week after they do. In terms of the exec, I think it is really important that we get those international voices up to the exec, whether that be through the sort of channels we already have, so through Kate as Campaigns and Inclusivity Officer, and our international rep getting the voice that way, and encouraging international students to run for exec. I think a major barrier here is if English is not your first language, all of this stuff, the motions and the eyes, are very confusing. I know something that has been worked on a bit by Theo, and I would really want to encourage to keep working as president. It's kind of like a little dictionary, what the hell does that mean for all the SJCR terminology, which would hopefully make them feel more comfortable in SJCR meetings and therefore more likely to run for positions.
So, if I were to get SJCR presidency, I know that Jojo has run some epic events this term, actually last term. Did you go ice skating? Yes. So I would adore to push for more SJCR exec members, and if I were to get president myself, to go along to all these sort of events that the international rep is running in terms of that, so that possibly then we can spread more what the SJCR is to them at those events. They don't seem so daunted by the prospect possibly. So I think that's the other thing of getting these exec members more involved in terms of events that people like Jojo are running, slay Jojo, to make really cool events. Yeah.
So I'm going to take another question from the floor, but I'm just going to say if we could have quicker answers from now on, just because for general reasons. But thank you very much. That's all candidates. Anna.
How would you go about switching off? How would you maintain that work-life balance, ensuring you do have that able to look after yourself?
Me?
Sure.
I'm quite good at switching off. I like going for a drink, going to sleeping, doing Netflix, whatever. I'm quite good at turning off once I need to. Yes, I'd say that's quite a talent of mine, especially when it's my degree.
Ben, yeah. So I'd probably stay involved in the Scout and Guide group in the university and use that as an opportunity to kind of escape the work of being president. I also try not to do work, especially in the president's flat. Probably try and avoid the exec office as well. Try and get some separation between where I live and where I work. I appreciate that's not necessarily possible, but it'd be good to kind of maximise the separation between that.
I very much get the feeling from what I've seen from previous presidents that even if you're just in John's trying to be off duty, it's still really hard because you are still the president and people know that. So I think what I would really prioritise is having time outside of Durham. I was talking to Imi earlier, actually, I really feel like I want to explore County Durham more. And if I get pres, I'm hoping to bring my car up. Woo. So it would be really nice, those little weekend trips with friends, to see friends that live in the area. So yeah, that's what I would do to turn off.
So we're going to go for a live stream question. Do you have any plans on making events, the SJCR or college in general, more accessible for students with disabilities or chronic conditions? And Amy, do you want to start?
So we do have some, I'll grab that in a minute, some physical limitations. Obviously the college building is not necessarily the most accessible. Luckily, there is work being done on that. but in terms of if you can actually make it to the venue, because then I can actually do something, I think making sure that we have that quiet space, which most events do currently have, but making sure that that's well publicized, and making sure that there are things like water and things that people may need for any medical reasons on hand. And second of all, making sure that the timetables are really easy to access so people can kind of like pace themselves, especially with a chronic condition. I know that it can be like quite hard if you don't know what's going to happen and when and how like high energy it is. So if you know there's like a disco coming up, you know, you can take a little bit of time to chill before going to that.
Ben? Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Emmy said, but also kind of work with the students with disabilities reps to kind of increase the accessibility of our events, speak to them before, like during the planning stages of, especially our larger events, but even like our summer events program, it'd be good to get them involved and yeah, have some of their input in what's being discussed.
Okay, so I know, like Emmy said, that obviously the college buildings mean that sometimes some disabilities and stuff, it makes it tricky. However, I think there are definitely things that I would look into doing. For example, like there could be rooms in college that are more accessible than others. So like some events could happen more in these rooms. So like the Bailey room, for example, if it's, is the Bailey room accessible? It can be made accessible. I'll do that. No, but like for summer ball and stuff, so if there's obviously like Beamish Hall, I think is accessible as well. So it's definitely picking venues and stuff that is the most accessible for people. Having areas like Emmy said, like quiet areas and tasks that, not tasks, but events, parts of events that are a bit more low-key if like stuff is overstimulating, or find like spaces that are for quiet time and / doing like, I always think of Annabelle Bulag, but she like put film on somewhere and someone could go watch, like you can go watch film, and I'd love to keep that as a thing. If people, it like gets too much, that would be, yeah.
So we've got a question from the floor. Ollie.
Engagement is a real problem at the moment, especially if like second years, third years, and fourth years actually coming back into college and engaging with the SJCR. I mean, just look around the room, the same faces are here every SJCR meeting from second year and above. And you know, this can't continue going forwards. We have to try and engage our members who aren't in first year. So how do you see, what do you envision like to try and reinvigorate people to come back to college and engage with the SJCR?
Oh, sorry.
Me?
Dilly, do you want to start?
Yeah, okay, so this is possibly like my third ever SJCR meeting, possibly even second. However, this is what I think, as a fresh face, I hope that I can bring other fresh faces. I can encourage people that this is like a cool place to be. It's like, again, the wine and cheese thing, what you give to the SJCR can give back to you. Basically, like intriguing that, making that more of a thing from first year upwards so people get more engaged throughout. Yeah, short answer. There you
go. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think part of this is the communication aspect. I think a lot of people get to the point where they kind of turn off because they'll see, oh, it's another email from the SJCR. Oh, it's another post. Then they kind of like ignore it. So I think we can, by having that like central place where everyone knows the information is and they don't feel like they're bombarded and it's on their own terms, that will help people stay involved. And also making sure that we are offering a range of events. Like an SJCR meeting is not going to be for everyone, but wine and cheese, that will bring a different crowd, and making sure that we are really like encouraging a broad range of events so that hopefully everyone feels like there is something for them.
So I'd like to put on some more kind of minimal cost events throughout the year to try and encourage people to come back to John's, come back and engage with the SJCR. As we discovered this afternoon, our best attended President's Drop-In in years. Food works very well. We had lots of people turn up with a free pizza. So offering food at events would also be good.
Jojo. You haven't done first one, Ben.
So I have applied to some jobs, no success yet. I'm also looking at PhDs, So I'd probably end up, George is very happy about that. Yeah, I would probably end up doing a PhD in maths somewhere.
Should we go Dilly next?
Well, I do a music degree, so yeah. Anyway. No, so I'd like to sing realistically. However, that's not going to happen next year. So what I'd go home, work in the hotel I worked in before, and probably Clark's. I worked in Clark's shoe shop, earn some money so I can actually afford to go and do my master's in whatever I want to do eventually when I decide. There you go.
As I alluded to in my host, I've applied to various grad jobs. Most of them are working with trains. Woohoo! So, as I said, I'll be making sure your trains run on time and that you've got some cool stations that don't fall down.
So next we'll take a question from Anna on the live stream. So what do you think? What do you think the biggest issue facing students is, and what is one thing the university could do to help? Dilly?
I'd have to say money, because every single thing that you obviously come across at uni is expensive. There is no way around it, and no matter who you are at university, it's the first time, I would say, for most people, that you have to think about everything your own. You're literally living in a whole new place by yourself. I think the university could help. Is this like university or like... Okay, so, yeah. Okay, so we'll go for... Yeah. So I think there should be more bursaries/scholarships for people who want to do activities around like sports and societies, so that people who don't have the access can actually have the access to that.
Yeah, we'll just go that. Emma, you go next.
So besides from the financial stuff, I'm going to take a slightly different route here, just because why not? So I think one of the other things that the university is not fabulous at acknowledging is that doing a degree is really hard on your mental health. And I think that, sorry. And I think we do have like some good support teams in college, but the university level support can often feel quite like clinical, and people don't want to get involved in it because it just feels like this big body they don't want to talk to. So making that more accessible from university level, but then also like providing better opportunities for people to say, like, my mental health is not doing well right now, I need to take a step back, and like encouraging them to actually view that as a valid reason for not filling out a deadline, as opposed to it just being, if you're not in a hospital, you got to cope, deal with it. So helping them push that.
So I agree with Dilly that finances are one of, if not the biggest issue facing students at the moment, especially with the cost of living crisis. I think they should have more grants and funds available to students and publicise them more for a kind of wider variety of reasons. So they've currently got some of them available, but they're not particularly comprehensive, covering a lot of opportunities available to students.
We'll take a question from... How are people feeling about questions?
Can we have the welfare break?
Yeah, should we go with that?
Oh, sorry.
There will be more.
Okay,
we have been going an hour and 15.
Right, can we have a bit of order? I understand people...
Although people haven't asked questions yet.
Have anyone not asked a question so far that wants to ask a question? General one, okay. So shall we do, how are you feeling, 2 or 3? 2, 3? I think we'll do 2. So Jen, do you want to be our first one, and then we'll have one more after that?
So part of the president's role involves working with the SJCR exec who are student volunteers. So what would you do to protect the welfare of your volunteers and support them in their roles, especially when they're prioritising the SJCR over their degree, as they so commonly do?
Quick answers. Oh, and Ben.
SJCR volunteers probably shouldn't prioritise SJCR work over their degree, but I would provide any support I could, kind of help them when there are deadlines approaching, meet with them regularly. Yeah. offer any support I can, really.
Okay, I'm going to fire off some things very quickly. 1, I will be a easy face that they can talk to if they need support. 2, organise things for the exec to do that are not SJCR work so they can like unwind. And 3, make it very clear that during the Pres drop-ins, it's not just for people to be like, oh, what does this mean? It's also for people to just come and chill and like have access to me as Pres.
I understand what it's like to prioritise everything other than your degree and think, this is great, this is fun. No, that's bad, don't do that. So I would make people feel, well, I'd happily take on more stuff if people are struggling at any point. I would tell somebody that if it's too much, you have to be honest straight away. Don't start struggling and getting things like over and over and over. There is other volunteers, there are other exec members, more people, there'll be somebody who can help you. Don't overwhelm yourself with stuff.
Okay, so final question. Yeah, Tom. And, oh yeah, no, sorry, ask a question first.
Durham's got a pretty bad reputation for social and cultural issues like misogyny, classism, homophobia, and the other phobias. I was reading a Planet last week about how 7,000 students hadn't even done the consent course. I just kind of want to know vaguely where you stand on that as candidates, if there's anything you'd want to do about that as president.
Just straight on the line.
That's horrific. I did not. Okay, I would make, obviously. Pardon? Okay.
John's had 4th highest, that was to repeat. Anyway, we'll get back to the candidates.
Okay,
Dilly, do you want to go?
I remember in my year when I was freshers, there was like risk of being excluded from other stuff. I think that possibly needs to be a higher punishment. Well, punishment. People can't be involved in stuff that college does or the SJCR does if they don't do that sort of course. It's so important that every single person understands all of that. Like, that's crazy, I can't believe that. But yes, I would be very, very strong on that. And every single, like, anything, cultural issues, sexism, everything like that, more workshops, more stuff, so people understand what's actually happening in the university around them.
Yeah. So I think we have a pretty good stance on the consent workshop that it is mandatory. But I think what was really interesting with this Freshers Week is we had JSOC in, the Jewish Society in, for the first time. And they did like a little 15-minute talk on identifying like anti-Semitic imagery. And I learned things in that, so I think it would be really useful to get groups like that in to just give like a little 15-minute like awareness thing, because some people may be coming from backgrounds where they're just not aware of some of these things and may unconsciously slip into like bad practices. So if right early on they're given the chance to like identify some of these things which we do not accept in the SJCR, then it will help like promote that healthy mindset and like community as we go forwards.
Yeah. So we also have a good Freshers Week program in that we do offer, or we offer mandatory consent, anti-Semitism, and anti-racism workshops. All students are supposed to attend them. Not all do, but we do. Or last year we tried to enforce that you couldn't go to the mega party if you didn't do your consent workshop. I think that worked quite well. We had people trying to sign up for consent workshops on the door of the mega party. It would be good to kind of have some similar punishment in place and probably work with other common rooms and the SU to enforce this across Durham, so that we can try and tackle it across the university rather than just in John's.
So I'd just like to say thank you very much to all the candidates for answering all those questions and for all of you for asking them. In terms of the election, planning to set that up and have voters start 12 tomorrow, last a week, so it'll go till 12 on Saturday following, and you should get an announcement on Sunday then about who has been elected. But yeah, I'll hand back to Theo.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, candidates. And thank you all of you for coming. Yeah, if you're still here, you're clearly an SJCR lifer. That's quite a marathon meeting. Thank you for coming. You may as well be on exec already. If you're not already on exec, run for exec. You've got 2 weeks to decide. So drop-ins, yes, we'll have exec drop-ins soon. They will be publicised. We may even have a date. 27th comes the exec drop-ins in the afternoon. Exec's really fun. It's a great way to get to know people. It's a great way to do things. It looks great on your CV. There's all sorts of reasons to do exec. So do exec. And you get to go to the exec formal, which is really fun. So yeah. So thank you all for coming.
Could we get, if you got elected to position, could you come and give me your name? Thank you.
Anyone who did a speech, come and send me their speech so I can put in the minutes, please. I didn't, so sorry.
Thank you, Lucy, for minuting. And yeah, you're all free to go now. You're not being held here hostage. Please leave. Oh, meme of the week. Yes, there's a meme of the week behind here. Enjoy the meme of the week. I think Will sent it.
I'm disappointed there's no pizza here.